to Every Browns Game, the podcast where two goofballs unpack the complicated history of Cleveland football. I'm Eli.
And I'm Ava.
And Ava, what is this?
Oh, man. So we're going to be talking about football and stuff.
And stuff, like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
In addition to football. So
hopefully more stuff than football for my sake.
That's like kind of the idea. Well, I mean, there's going to be like a lot of football too. If you like football and if you like stuff, and especially if you like both, then I think this is going to be a good, fun thing to listen to. I'm also going to answer my own question. This is a podcast where we're going to be talking about every Browns game, and we're going to be doing it at a pace of one game per episode. So if we are successful, that means we're going to end up with... I should have done the math before we recorded this.
A lot of episodes.
A lot, yeah.
Like, so much football content will be had.
Probably like 600 or 700 episodes. If that happens, I don't know. Either we'll be really old or we'll be really tired, or both.
I hope that by the end of this podcast, I actually have integrated the meaning of football and maybe deepened my understanding.
What is the meaning of football?
I don't know, but everyone seems to know but me.
What is the
I
meaning
watch football with you all the time.
The
and
meaning of football.
I don't get it. I feel like there's something I'm not getting.
Do you mean like not the how? You mean the why?
Yeah, what's the why?
Of football.
But you know what I gotta say? I saw this reel on Instagram today, and it was someone recording footage of Sabrina Carptenter on stage next to Taylor Swift, and that woman is massive. And I have to say, I wouldn't care if it weren't for football, because I'm not a Swiftie. I've never been into Taylor Swift, but the amount of times we've talked about her because of football is insane.
Wait.
And so I found myself intrigued. This is pop culture. This is the meaning for me.
Yeah, no, it's true. Nobody cared about Taylor Swift before Travis Kelce. Exactly. The intrinsic meaning of her career and her art is tied to the man that she is in a relationship with, as it should be.
Exactly. It's just fascinating. It's just so steeped in our culture, and that
was sarcasm.
Football
by the way.
Is everywhere, and
I actually love Taylor Swift and her music. I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. I love Taylor Swift's music. Ava doesn't. Football made you think about how tall Taylor Swift is. Sabrina Carpenter's really short.
Yes, I know.
That's
but
also
I didn't
part
know
of
this. This is what I mean. I was Googling the height of Travis Kelce because I'm like, this woman she's massive.
Sabrina Carpenter is 5 feet.
How tall must Travis Kelce be?
Sabrina, okay. Let's So Sabrina Carpenter's 5 feet tall, which could be embellished, to be honest. I've seen her next to like people of normal height, and she might even be less than 5 feet. Taylor Swift is 5'10", so that's quite above average for a woman. And Travis Kelce, I want to say he's like 6'3". He's 6'5". Okay, that makes sense because he's a tight end. He's he played basketball in high school. Maybe I'm not totally sure. Anyway, we got a little sidetracked there. This is good. This is already up to a great start. So we're talking about every Browns game. I want to start off each episode with something I'm going to call IRL Browns, where we'll talk about what the Browns are doing in the present day before we talk about what the Browns did in the past day. However, today is currently February 2nd, 2025. It's a week before the Super Bowl, and the Browns did not make the playoffs this year. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched this season, it really fucking sucked. So, not really much to discuss right now. All the players are probably in Cabo. Deshaun Watson is sitting on his pile of money, like diving into his pile of money, Scrooge McDuck style. Actually, no. He probably
bought from.
He probably actually can't do a Scrooge McDuck style swan dive with a torn Achilles, but like I think in his head it's figurative. So not really much to discuss. But once things start happening in the off season, we'll go over some headlines. And I also want to start off with something we're going to call Story of the Season. This one doesn't really apply yet either because it's the first official game, like, ever. But usually we'll discuss the record of the team so far, the results of the maybe the previous few games if they were significant. That's usually what we'll do in this section. But for now, episode 1, let's just get right into the game. Ava, what do you think?
I say let's get right into it.
Okay, so the first, and I also want to clarify, the Browns did play exhibition games before this. we're not going to count those because, one, we're not going to do preseason in general. Two, we already have enough games to do without doing random exhibition games that are impossible to find any details on. So,
can I interject really, really quick?
Sure.
So I feel like it's important to mention right off the bat that I really don't understand anything you just said. This is important for people to know because this is what I'm bringing to the table. That's all. I just need people to understand.
Yeah.
I will be. Can you explain to me what you just said?
Yeah, so an exhibition game is a game that doesn't count.
Okay.
They're
just exhibiting their fine skills.
Exhibiting, exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Just for fun.
Just for show.
Is that I didn't know that happened. Everything seems so serious in the world of football. Every game counts.
That happens in every sport. Every sport plays exhibition games.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Take it away.
So they did play exhibition games. I believe there was one against like Brooklyn, whatever team Brooklyn had at the time. But we are not going to be doing those. So we're going to jump right into the first regular season game of the first Browns season. The Browns were a member of the All-America Football Conference, I believe is the name. I know it's the AAFC. Yeah, All-America Football Conference is the league that the Browns played in for the first 3 years of their existence. And the first year, most importantly, of their existence was 1946. And so the game we're going to be talking about today is... I'm like doing a drum roll. Maybe I can
he's pretending to drum roll.
Maybe I can like throw a drum roll sound effect in there. Is the Cleveland Browns versus the Miami Seahawks. Friday, September 6th, 1946. This was a night game, a Friday night game, which is really interesting if you consider like, obviously I don't really know anything about like the current, like the high school football climate of the time. However, Friday nights are for high school football, as everybody who likes football knows.
Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby.
Exactly. Texas forever. So it is kind of weird. I wonder if this was competing with like high school football games. I truly have no idea. But it happened on a Friday night, and if it was competing with high school football games, I doubt there were a lot of people there because it drew 60,135 people to Cleveland Stadium, which at the time was a record for a professional football game. No professional football game had drawn more people there.
That's crazy.
This is where you go, wow.
Yeah. Whoa.
No, it's actually pretty cool.
That is really, really awesome, actually.
Yeah, and that's because college football was kind of still the top dog at the time in American culture in terms of like what version of American football was the most popular. For example, in 1947, the year after this, Cleveland hosted the Notre Dame versus Navy game, which they did several times. It was common at the time for college football games to be played at like neutral sites because different teams like Notre Dame, for example, had fans all over the country because they were the Catholic team. And that game drew more than 84,000 people. So nearly 25,000 more people came out for a college game that neither school was located in Cleveland. Versus a professional football team, one of the best at the time, that was actually from Cleveland and had players from like Ohio and stuff.
That's so crazy. Why? Why is everyone just? Is it
college football was just more popular? Like I genuinely, there was this idea of like amateurism that was kind of like romanticized at the time in college football. Like a lot of people didn't think that people like getting paid to play football wasn't what football was about. It was about like creating men,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, if all of these people have some sort of an emotional tie to the schools that they've been to,
sure. That
probably adds such another layer to it.
No, totally. I mean, the fact that it was Notre Dame versus Navy was significant because those were, two of the most storied programs and two of the best teams at the time, but also had a bunch of fans just because of the things that they were associated with. Notre Dame with being Irish Catholic, being Catholic in general. My grandfather was French, but he still went to Notre Dame, as he called it, and was still like super into it. So, and then the Naval Academy, which like if you've been in the military in general, maybe you root for Army, maybe you root for Navy, but like if you have a friend, cousin, relative, parent, grandparent that was in the Navy, you might root for Navy at the time. So, And people just like college football more.
I mean, that was really it. I enjoy watching college football more. And
why is that?
I don't even know why. I started saying that, and I knew you were going to ask me why, and I don't know. It is vibe-based.
It's still a different vibe.
It is. The essence of... And, you know... people like Tom Brady, they just get under your skin, and the kids don't. The kids are kids, and they're endearing. Like, even if they're assholes, you know?
Yeah. It's different. It's like, you know that those people... Well, okay, now they're getting paid very publicly, but, like, there is something about the amateurism, and the amateurism was overblown and romanticized very heavily, especially over the past, like, half century or so. College football players were getting paid since, like, the 70s, but under the table, obviously. Yeah. But there's something to, like, the pageantry and, like, the aesthetic that, like, isn't, like, it's present in some NFL environments. Like, Pittsburgh is a really good example. Green Bay is a really good example. But the NFL is so much more, like, I don't know. I don't even want to say commercialized, but, like, it kind of is.
Yeah, it kind of feels like it. It's lost a little bit of the magic.
Yeah, but, like, college football, even, like, especially over the past 10 years or so, has also gone down that road.
They're both pretty intense, I gotta say.
Yeah, just, like, I'm just thinking about, like, you know, the likelihood of you going to a college football stadium and seeing, like, a gigantic gambling ad. Obviously, that's increased in, like, the past 5 years or so. But the NFL has definitely felt more like, you know, like a commercial delivery vehicle. Like, the TV product especially is just a way for, like, State Farm to worm its way into your brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, anyway,
Gronk selling us Tide Pods or whatever the hell he's doing.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, look up the tweet where somebody didn't watch football, so they didn't know that Gronk was a real person, and they thought that Dunkin' Donuts made up a character called Gronk to sell their energy drink. Just a guy, like, Gronk is just a guy named Gronk who's, like, crazy.
I didn't know who Gronk was for a good while, and there was, you know, baby Gronk.
Right.
And I was like, why are they comparing this child to a character from a beloved fantasy movie? What even is that movie? What is that movie? The tiny tree boy?
Groot.
Oh,
you
Groot.
Thought Gronk was Groot.
Yeah,
from Guardians of the Galaxy.
This is also an issue that I have, y'all. Like, everyone is the same man. We have Die Hard and Braveheart. Those two men are the same, and they will always be the same.
No, they are not.
In my mind.
Bruce Willis seems like a wonderful person. Mel Gibson seems like a raging fucking asshole.
It's, like, very, like, surface level. Like, I don't think about it like that. And that's why, like, Don Cheadle and, see, I don't even know
who you got Don Cheadle confused with.
I don't even know these people.
Oh, you got Don Cheadle confused with some, like, character actor that was in an episode of I Think You Should Leave.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta find out.
It's the episode, to clarify, it's the episode where he's at the wedding and they're doing the photo booth and he doesn't know what to do with the props, and so he, like, accidentally chokes himself. that guy, Ava thought he was Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle and she was like, is not Tim Meadows.
Tim Meadows,
Tim Meadows, I love you. Don Cheadle, you're great, but you're not Tim Meadows. And I need to get that through my head.
Yeah, and it's not, listen, it has nothing to do with any of these people.
No, it's not personal.
No, Ava just doesn't.
And it's usually
men. It's only men.
And it's usually men.
Yeah.
So Gronk and Groot.
Right. Groot's not a man, though. Groot's a tree.
Yeah, but they have masculine qualities.
Sure, I think Groot, if trees had, I guess I don't know if Groot's actually a tree. I think he's just Groot.
No, we actually don't know.
Groot maybe might not have, like, a gender. Yeah. Anyway,
sorry about that. Okay.
This game was... Please, I love how sidetracked we're getting already. This game had a record crowd for a professional football game at the time. I'm biased. Ohio is home to some of the best football fans in the country. Anyway, Ohio is home to some of the best. Stop it. I've never been to Texas. Okay, I feel like that's probably the one, and maybe California. Oh, man, I mean, obviously the South, like Georgia, Alabama, come to mind. Let's put it this way. Ohio is in the top tier of people who go insane over football. And so the Browns were bound to work. And I give credit to Mickey McBride, who founded the Browns, and he knew that Cleveland would embrace a pro football team. It had been tried a couple of times. The Cleveland Rams were a professional football team that played in Cleveland. I believe they played in the NFL. And they relocated to St. Louis. They relocated to Los Angeles, and then to St. Louis, and then to Los Angeles again, and the rest is history. But the Rams, fun fact, they actually started as a Cleveland franchise.
Oh, that's fun.
Cleveland had another team called the Cleveland Indians, the Cleveland Football Indians, in 1931, and it was actually common practice at the time to name a pro football franchise after the pro baseball franchise that also existed in your city, because it had name recognition and stuff, like the Brooklyn Dodgers, the New York Giants, the New York Yankees, they all had professional football equivalents.
I think that's so interesting.
At the time. It's actually really weird, because how are you going to I just want to know what the marketing logic behind that was, because how are you going to differentiate your football team from your baseball team if they literally have the same name? It gets people halfway there. It's oh, I'm going to see the New York Giants. Oh, this is not the sport.
Yeah, I wonder if it was kind of an effort to bring more people in, if all of these people know the name at least, then maybe somehow we'll rope them into this other sport.
Right. It would make sense if the baseball club started a different team under the same club umbrella that was a football team, because that's how it works in Europe. Real Madrid, for example, has a soccer team, football team, and they have a basketball team also. It's under the same club. Real Madrid has multiple sports. But no, they didn't. It's just I'm going to start a team, we're going to play at Yankee Stadium, and we're going to be named the New York Yankees, just like the baseball team. But people are going to know that we play football because on the poster that advertises the game, there's going to be a picture of a football player on it. That's, yeah,
and then we also had, the AAFC, and what are the other,
Oh, the NFL, you mean the other leagues?
Yeah, there's so many different, I don't know, there's a lot.
So many different failed, if we could get into that would be a whole separate podcast, honestly, getting into the failure and success of multiple professional football leagues in the US.
Yeah.
Because the AAFC, spoiler, if you don't already know, the AAFC is not going to be around forever. The Browns will be around for quite a while. The AAFC will not be. The AAFC is only going to be around for about 3 years. And the Browns are going to, again, another minor spoiler, absolutely dominate it. And this was game 1, and it was played at Cleveland Stadium, sometimes called Municipal Stadium, but I don't think the official name was ever Municipal Stadium. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say about this. Commonly known as Municipal Stadium, Lakefront Stadium, or Cleveland Municipal Stadium, but that was never the official name as far as I can tell, so we're just going to call it Cleveland Stadium. I never went there. It was fully demolished before I was born and before you were born. Full disclosure, I was born in May 1997. Ava was born in July 1998. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Cleveland Municipal Stadium was demolished in 96, early 97. So I never went there. My dad and grandparents did plenty of times to see, at the time, the Indians, the Browns. And they played there together for decades and decades. They shared a stadium, and Cleveland Municipal Stadium was just one of those old school, the architecture is actually kind of cool, but by the time they demolished it, it was absolutely falling apart. It just looks to kind of give you a picture, it just looks like a big circle.
Nice big bowl.
Yeah, and the circle was big enough to, fit a football field on the inside in one dimension, and then also a baseball diamond. But it was designed around being a baseball stadium. It hosted the Indians from 1932 all the way until 1995, whenever Jacobs Field was built. And then it hosted the Browns in 1946. So they were playing baseball there for a lot longer than they were playing pro football. Although I guess the Cleveland Rams and the Cleveland Football Indians played there too. I don't know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of information. Also, I want to clarify, when I say Cleveland Indians, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I just want to be, just for I don't like saying that name. I don't like that name. I've been a fan of the team as long as I've been alive, and I didn't really understand why the name wasn't great when I was younger, and then I got older and I was like, oh, this sucks actually. But I'm gonna, if I'm referencing the team, I'm going to say Indians and not Guardians, pre-name change just because that's what they were called. There's a name of another football team that I'm not going to say because it's literally a slur. So, let's keep going. The opponent in this game, the Miami Seahawks. I don't want to get into this too much yet because Ava has a lot to share on the Miami Seahawks, but they were Miami's first...
Wow.
Well...
I thought I was supposed to research Seahawks. So...
Oh, so you don't... So how much did you research the team, the Miami Seahawks?
Well, I've got a lot of information on Seahawks.
Okay, so I did tell you to, like, research the concept of, like, what a Seahawk is. We'll get into that later. Okay. But I thought you had... Do you have stuff on the owner in I thought you had stuff on the owner.
Oh yeah, I've got stuff on the
owner. Okay. So that's
Mr. Hester here.
Yeah. So well, not so. Let's pause on that. Let's put a pin in that because we have a whole segment for that later. Mm-hmm. But they were Miami's. Just to give you some cursory background information, they were Miami's first professional sports team. Period. Miami did not have a professional sports team, and neither, in fact, did the state of Florida. They were the state of Florida's first professional sports team, which is pretty
impressive. Yeah,
I mean, that is pretty impressive because if you think about the state of Florida, it has 8 professional sports teams now, not counting minor league soccer and all that weird shit. They were, and honestly, they were ahead of their time because Miami is, as far as I know, a really, really good sports town and a really big football town. They love the Dolphins down there. Mm-hmm. And I think in an alternate universe, if the Miami Seahawks were maybe a little bit better managed and owned and operated, they could be to Miami what the Dolphins are now. But unfortunately, they were only around for about a year. Yeah. So we'll get into that more later. Just wanted to give some background on who the Seahawks are. They were the southernmost pro football team at the time, which is significant because pro football was mostly a Northeast, Midwest thing at the time. The biggest pro football cities were Chicago, New York, Pittsburgh, Philly, Green Bay. At the time, those were where all the big, important NFL teams were. In the southernmost NFL team... at the time was the Washington Racial Slurs, owned by fuck-ass George Preston Marshall, who sucks. literal Confederate glazer George Preston Marshall, piece of shit. R.I.P. I guess. They wanted to he was, a shrewd businessman, and he wanted to tap into the potential market that a southern pro football team could have, because the South was college football mad, obviously, as they still are now, and that now we kind of think of the South as the domain of college football, even though there are a couple pro teams down there. But at the time, they didn't have any pro teams at all, and George Marshall looked at that and was like, well, if they embrace, all these college football teams, they'd probably love a pro football team.
I feel like that's sound logic.
Yeah. So the Miami Seahawks were kind of trying to capture the same thing because they knew there was an audience for it, but for one reason or another, they didn't do so successfully. So the final score of this game ended up being 44-0. The Browns kind of rolled them. The Seahawks, minor spoiler, they're not going to have a very good 1946. It's not going to go well for them. And 1946 is the first and the last year that they are going to operate. So, kind of a bad start to a bad existence for the Miami Seahawks. The Cleveland Browns, minor spoiler, will have a very good 1946. A very, very, very good 1946. We're going to get into that, obviously, in future episodes, but this is, for the Browns, a very good start to a very good run in general, but, a very, very good season. So let's get into the game. Yeah, let's get into the game. I just had an inkling that, maybe I'm wrong about the Miami Seahawks only existing for one season, so I'm gonna fact check myself on that real quick. I'm 1990.
No, that's true. The
Miami
Seahawks were only around for a year.
Yeah. So it says the team was relocated to Baltimore at the end of the season. They rebranded to okay. So the Miami Seahawks, and we can discuss this more because the Browns actually play Miami later in the season. I think it's their 10th or 11th game. But they move to Baltimore after the 1946 season and become the first iteration of the Baltimore Colts. So we'll talk more about that later. I just wanted to, make sure I'm not actually lying to people. So the game went pretty well for the Browns. Brief scoring summary. The first quarter, Max Speedy touchdown, Lou Groza field goal, 10-0. Second quarter, Dante Lavelli touchdown, Tim Colella touchdown, Lou Groza field goal, 27-0 at halftime. No scoring in the third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, the Browns picked back up right where they left off. Don Greenwood fumble return touchdown, Lou Groza field goal, and a Ray Terrell. The game was capped off by a Ray Terrell 76-yard pick six to make it 44-0. As far as the plain dealer recap of the game is concerned, I think a lot of the fans had left the stadium by that point because the game had been long over, but that is how the Browns capped off this absolute smothering of the Seahawks. So, pretty good day for them.
It's also interesting to hear you say that out loud and to hear Lou Groza's name because I grew up in Berea, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And one of my best friends lived right around the corner from Lou Groza Field, which all of us kids knew was just around the corner from also our elementary school. And so I had no idea who this man was. I was like, oh, it's just Lou Groza. And then, I meet you, and
he's just around.
Good old Louis Field over there. And you're like, hey, football, famous people. And I'm like, wow. So yeah, it was kind of funny to meet you, and you were like, oh, is it cool to live in Berea where the Browns, training? Yeah, and I had no idea.
And Ava was like,
I had no idea.
No.
Yeah. No.
She's like, why do you care so much about that? And I literally had tears in my eyes, and I was like, you don't understand.
I was living on hallowed ground.
You don't understand.
I didn't even realize what was happening.
Means to me. No, I thought it was cool because Ava and I started dating shortly after I transferred to Baldwin-Wallace University, which is actually going to play a role in the story of the Browns pretty heavily. And I started going to school there. Baldwin-Wallace is in Berea, and so I would drive to school, and I would drive past the Browns facility. I thought it was awesome because I never really went to Berea as a kid, and the few times I did were to go to Browns training camp, and that was right around the corner from where you grew up on. I'm not going to dox you, but on Avenue in Berea.
And it's just so
you could literally walk to Brown's training camp, and that was a cool day out for me.
No, I had no idea that was even there until I was 16 years old. And I lived in Berea my whole life.
I mean, you live a 10-minute walk from where the Browns, where they practiced and where the front office and
Isn't
the
that the
facilities.
strangest thing?
Yeah, that's actually really weird.
But that also, I think, goes to show you where the direction that the Browns as a team took in terms of their popularity and how people felt about them. Because I feel like if I grew up at a time where the Browns were really popping, I probably would have known, even as a non-football person.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing is I'm going to say minor spoiler a lot. Minor spoiler.
If people are listening to this, I'm sure that they already know.
Post 1999, the Browns kind of sucked ass. So
I never knew the Browns to be a good team.
But at the same time, there's this religious devotion that people in Cleveland have for the Browns anyway, and it's I don't know. We're probably going to talk a lot about what it means to be a fan of a bad team. And the relationship you have with it, because it's probably pretty obvious the Browns are my I've been a Cleveland sports fan all my life. I'm the pretty typical Cleveland sports kid who grew up rooting for Browns, Cavs, now Guardians, and Ohio State football. In Ohio State everything, but mostly football. And the Browns are they have this special distinction. It's kind of as John Dorsey put it, it's kind of a sleeping giant. It's Cleveland really got behind the Cavs. The Cavs championship in 2016 was a really special moment. But if that was a Browns Super Bowl, they would have burned Cleveland down. They would have, I think a black hole would have opened up in the middle of the Gateway District, and Cleveland would have just been swallowed into the earth. It would have been a cataclysmic event, and that's how much Cleveland likes the Browns compared to everything else. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like the Ohio relationship with football. I think the Browns kind of represent this like, it's very cliche, but like this Rust Belt attitude of like blue collar, like, these guys working hard, playing a physical game out in the cold. And, Cleveland just has this different relationship with the Browns. Unfortunately, the Browns have rarely ever been good in my lifetime. And so I wasn't around to see those Cardiac Kids teams of the late 70s and early 80s. I wasn't around to see anything that happened prior to that. And so it's just been this, me and anybody else who's younger than 35, it's been this torturous relationship of like, you think it's going to happen. It's got to happen eventually, but I've been waiting almost 30 years for it to happen, and it never does. But man, when it inevitably does happen, I don't know if it's going to be prior to the sun swallowing the earth or after.
It'll happen during. We'll finally
it'll
get
happen
our moment.
during.
and then we'll be able to die happy. But that's kind of the vibe that I get from the Browns. It's like pushing it to the
like just lovable
second.
Failures, but I use the word lovable very loosely. Actually, hateable failures most of the time, to be honest. We don't deserve them. We deserve a lot better. I love Cleveland. I love the Browns too, but God, they're just like I don't know. Like, I don't have kids of my own, but I feel like they're like a kid who just keeps making the wrong decision, and you're like, I know that you're better than this.
Yeah.
But
maybe that's what it is. We believe.
But we have
so
to.
Much hope.
We have to let you draft Johnny Manziel in order for you to see that that's a bad idea, and like maybe you'll learn from that. And spoiler alert, they didn't. Anyway. So this game, rewind back to 1946. This game went really well for the Browns. It's sort of a sign of the times, 1946 football. The quarterback position hadn't really been like codified yet as like this thing that only one person does. And so the Browns used multiple quarterbacks in the game. They had multiple people throwing the ball. I think in total, if I can just count here, they had 6 people make at least one pass attempt. And those people were Otto Graham, Lou Saban, Cliff Lewis, Edgar Jones, Don Greenwood, and Ray Terrell. They all played some version of quarterback, whether that was a trick play, whether that was a handoff pass. I genuinely don't know how football looked at the time because there's not really a whole lot to go off of, at least for somebody like me who doesn't know very much, relatively speaking. But they had a bunch of people throwing passes in this game. 1946, that was pretty common. Otto Graham was sort of, he was the main guy. He took 13 pass attempts, which for the time was kind of a lot. He went 5 for 13 for 109 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. For 1946, I feel like that's pretty good. I don't really know like the context, but for a quarterback in 1946, that's solid. Cliff Lewis took the second most pass attempts with 3, as did Lou Saban. Lou didn't complete any of them, though. Cliff Lewis completed 2 for 31 yards and 1 touchdown. And then they had some other guys do it, too, because why not? Why not have everybody throw the ball? I mean, I don't know. We don't know what we're doing. We literally just invented this way of playing football where we throw the ball beyond the line of scrimmage. We don't actually fucking know what's going on.
So is that like legal? Is that a part of the game? Like, could someone do that today?
Like have multiple people play quarterback? Yeah, you can have as many quarterbacks as you want as long as they're all on your roster.
All right.
Yeah, you just don't do it because playing quarterback is really, really hard. And if you have multiple people, I mean,
we've really refined the sport.
Yeah, we've refined the sport. It's really hard, and also it requires a lot of communication and like synergy with your teammates. It's easier if it's one guy doing it. Because everybody's used to that guy. They're used to how he throws the ball. He's used to how people run routes. He's used to how, the whole team communicates. And also the quarterback's responsibilities now, I think, in terms of reading defenses, calling plays, far beyond what they were in 1946.
Well, perhaps that is one of the reasons that the Seahawks did not last very long. There was no synergy.
Perhaps you're right. Perhaps
that was a moment of true insight.
Yeah,
I really wanted that to land.
That did.
Okay.
That really did. I think we should all take a second and think about that. Okay, so the Browns used multiple quarterbacks this game. Otto Graham is a future Hall of Famer. He had a decent game. He had a great career. Otto is going to have much better games in the future. But this one was just okay. Yes, Ava.
I have to pee.
Okay. So Ava's going to go pee. I'm just going to vamp.
I just have a lot of beverages.
Yeah, no. It's fine. It's fine. Ava has multiple bevies going at the moment. So she's going to go pee.
Keep my kidneys clean.
The stuff that Ava says on mic, I don't know where this is going to go. I'm kind of afraid. Otto Graham had a decent game. Again, I don't know, in terms of 1946, is 5 for 13 for 109 yards and a touchdown a decent game? I genuinely don't know. Is that like a Josh Allen stat line by 1946 standards? I truly have no idea. But that was his game, and he's going to make the Hall of Fame one day, so who am I to judge? Cliff Lewis from beautiful Lakewood, Ohio, where this podcast is currently being recorded, also had a good game, I guess. 2 for 3 for 31 yards. Cliff had a below-average career, though. Otto did not. More on that later. And this is kind of a good segue to get us more into the players. So the next segment is something called Heroes and Zeros, where we're going to talk about who had the best performances in the game and who had the worst performances in the game. Pretty self-explanatory, right? So the hero, I think, of this game, beyond anybody else, is a guy that we've already talked about briefly, named Lou Groza.
Lou fucking Groza, baby!
Lou fucking Groza, baby! LFGB, Lou fucking Groza, baby.
Let's go. Are we doing the Heroes and Zeros?
Yeah, we're doing Heroes and Zeros. We're talking about Lou Groza. He's the hero. Lou is the Browns' all-time leading scorer. We'll talk about Lou in a little bit. Ava, do you have anything you want to say about Lou Groza as somebody who grew up around the Lou Groza stuff?
What do I remember? Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who this man was.
Yeah.
I didn't know why we had a field named after him.
Well,
I thought he was just some local bro,
I mean, but he was, though.
But not a famous local bro. I thought he was just some dude who paid for the field, or maybe he was cool. I didn't know he was currently known.
Yeah, so Lou Groza is in...
I thought the field was a legacy kind of thing.
I mean, it is.
Yeah, but I'm not explaining this well. Basically,
no, I know what you mean.
Basically, I had no idea. But I was a kid. They had a really big, water tower at this field.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I really, really liked that field. If I could talk about that field for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had many a field trip to a bunch of different places, but this particular field was just the spot. And I don't know, again, it was very, very vibe based. You get there and it's very open, very spacious. It's set behind this whole neighborhood, and it felt really special. It felt kind of like Berea's special park that not everyone knows about. But
not everybody knew about Lou Groza Field in Berea?
Well, no, everyone, it was a Berea home base.
You mean everybody in the area?
Yeah, it felt like if I were to bring friends from elsewhere and we would go to Lou Groza Field, it would just feel out of the way. It was very peaceful. So okay. I gotta say, I don't know if that reflects Lou Groza as a man, but I associated that name with really lovely memories of my childhood. So that's a really nice story, Ava. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Lou Groza was a very special man. He was a very good kicker, and he was probably the best kicker at least at the time. In this game, which was Lou Groza's first professional football game, he kicked 5 extra points and 3 field goals for a total of, I can't do math, 14 of the Browns' 44 points were all Lou Groza. And that's a trend that's going to play out throughout his entire career, because if you look at... Sorry, our cat is freaking out in the background.
I gotta close.
If there's background noise, that's our cat
dinner time,
going absolutely ballistic. Yeah, we picked a bad time to record this, huh? If you looked at the Browns' all-time career...
Hold on.
Oh, okay. Okay. If you look at I'm not editing shit. If you look at the Browns' all-time career scoring leaders, Lou Groza currently sits on the top of the list with 1,608 points, or an average of 6 points per game played. He is above second place Phil Dawson. Shout out to Phil Dawson one time. Above second place Phil Dawson by nearly 400 points. Phil has 1,271, and Phil has long been retired. And he last played a game for the Browns in 2012. So, point is, unless we get another kicker, because the people on top of these lists are typically kickers because they contribute to more points than any other individual player, nobody's catching Lou. Lou is in there in pen, or like if there's something more permanent than pen, that's what Lou is in there.
Like a permanent marker.
Yeah, but like, is that any more or less permanent than pen though? Is that like?
Well, actually, like you could smear a pen pretty easily, but like a Sharpie.
You could smear a Sharpie too. Okay.
Sharpie's not going anywhere. It depends on the material.
Okay, Lou is in a paper notebook in Sharpie as the Browns' all-time leading scorer. How's that?
There we go.
Does that feel permanent enough?
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't think anybody's catching Lou. And this was, the first 14 points of the 1,608 points that he would score for the Cleveland Browns, and I think that's pretty cool. He did that from 1946 to 1967. 21 MFing years, dude. That is crazy. I mean, for a kicker, if you're a really good kicker, you might play for 20 years, but at the time, I'm sure that was, like, insane. So, Lou Groza, we'll get into him more.
I want to know about his hips.
You want to know about his hips?
Yeah. I just want to know, like, what was going on in there.
If I Google Lou Groza hips, what comes up? Hang on, Lou Groza hips. Do we get a picture of... Oh, there you go. There's him extending his...
Look at that. Look at that quad muscle.
Oh my god, his hamstring.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Yo, everybody, Google Lou Groza hips. You'll get
everyone
pictures
all at once.
If you find a picture of Lou Groza kicking, check out his hamstring. That guy was beefed up.
Wow.
That guy had some thighs on him. I mean, obviously. The other thing I'm noticing too is he has like a football player build.
He does.
Because if you look like a modern kicker,
he doesn't look like a kicker.
No, thinking about
a kicker.
Yeah, like a modern NFL kicker is more built like a soccer player, like very slender, very flexible. Lou Groza can barely get his toe above his waist.
Yeah.
Like he's a mountain of a man. He looks like a lineman or like a tight end. Like I'm looking at this picture of him kicking in full pads. Like he has the fucking lineman face mask. Wow. Also, he's like his leg again. His toe is like at his waist, and I think that's the full extension of his leg. He just had power.
I'm wondering if it's power or like maybe he chose to kick like that, because I gotta say, if we're talking like this man's longevity playing this game is great. His hips are so aligned. Like that's a safe kick right there for your body.
No, totally. I'm just more about like Lou Groza's physique was like,
look at this. Look at that side.
Dad bod.
Yeah.
He was big, dude. He was large. I wonder if his Wikipedia, that's not him. If his Wikipedia has Lou Groza was 6'3", 240.
I think we need to add a segment. How big was this boy?
How big was this boy? Okay, we'll add a segment right now. How big was this boy? Lou Groza, 6'3", 240. He was huge for a kicker that is massive. Let me just Google another kicker. Harrison Butker. This is in no way endorsement of anything that Harrison Butker has said or done. Harrison Butker is 6'4", 205. Okay? And that's even a little large for me, to be honest. I mean, I guess that's pretty skinny. 6'4", 205, and you stretch out the 205 over 6'4". I mean, that's skinny-ish. I'm 6'3", like 210, so I feel like I'm like in decent shape. But anyway, 205. Lou Groza is rocking a whole extra 30 pounds. Wow. And let me just tell you, from this Google image search, like it is mostly around his hips and ass and gut.
Yeah,
like,
that is great. He's got that ball is just like poof.
That ball is scared of him. Look at this guy coming at you. He's about to destroy that ball.
Look at the dainty hold on that ball.
Oh, well,
as he waits for Lou to kick it.
Yeah, I mean, holding a place kick is a very dainty line of work.
That's so cute.
I know. It is really cute. Like, you have to be so gentle. You just hold it with your little pointer finger.
Here you go,
Here you go. Lou, I held this for you, Lou. Lou, come here. Come hither. Come hither and kick thine ball, Lewis.
Goodness.
So yeah, Lou, mother, what do we call him? Lou fucking Groza, baby. The toe was his nickname because he kicked with his toe, as everybody did back then. But he had the best toe because he was the best at what he did. Nowadays, Freudian slip, football players kick in a soccer style for the most part, where they kick with the inside of their foot because we've realized that that's a better thing to do. At the time, we didn't know that, and Lou Groza just fucking booted that shit, and he did pretty well.
Do you know, maybe you don't, but I figured I would ask here, do you know the length of, like, a career for a kicker? Like a common...
Like now or back then? I mean, because it really depends.
No.
Like, if you're not good, then not very long. Like, if you get your shot in the NFL and it doesn't go well, then you could be in the league for, like, 2 or 3 years total.
Do you know who the longest standing kicker is currently to date?
Oh, the longest active kicker that's a starter? That's a really good question. I would...
I can look it up. See if we can find.
Yeah. I have some guesses, but I don't want to get it wrong. Longest career for a kicker. It's the Saints. The guy that was on the Saints. John Carney had a pretty long career. He played for 12 years.
Okay.
But that's actually not nearly as long. Phil Dawson, shout out to Phil Dawson one time. My dude, he played for 19 years. Let me see. Let me just scroll down to the top of this list because Lou Groza played for 21 years. Yes. Okay. Morton Anderson. This is the guy that I was thinking of. Morton Anderson played for the Saints for 24 years in total, like non-consecutively. He played from 1982 to 2004. 26 years. 1982 to 2004. In 2006 to 2007, he played for the Saints, Falcons, Chiefs, Vikings, and New York Giants. He played in 382 games. As you can probably imagine, it's easy to have a long career as a kicker. Because you don't really get hit very much. And if you do get hit, then that's against the rules. And
well, this is interesting. Morton Anderson here.
Yeah.
He has this good old Morty boy. Morty and Lou here, they have the same kicking form.
They do.
And I gotta say, it is not what you normally see. I'm fascinated by all things related to the body. I'm a massage therapist. I'm a body worker, so these kind of things, like, this is what I look at. And this is really intriguing to me because, I'm curious about how much the body can actually take. When I see people kicking, when we watch football, I mean, this is what I'm used to. Like, they're bent over, their leg is all the way up and across the body, and
soccer style. You go across your body.
It doesn't seem super sustainable.
You swipe the ball,
and so
you don't just boot it with your toe.
Lou Groza and Morton Anderson are kicking with their hips like square. Their leg isn't going as high.
Yeah.
With the power that they're getting and that's just.
There's also the guy who I think also played for the Saints, actually, who had the club foot, and I forget his name. Type. This is all going to get picked up on the mic. Who cares? Tom Dempsey was his name. He actually was, like, physically disabled. He had a club foot.
Oh, wow.
Like, if you look at his shoe. But he kicked with the club foot. He was also missing his right hand. He kicked with the club foot, and he was really, really good. Wow. He had a good career. Let me look at his Wikipedia real quick. Tom Dempsey played in the NFL for 10 years for the Saints, Eagles, Rams, Oilers, and Bills. He was first-team All-Pro in 1969. He's in the New Orleans Saints Hall of Fame. He was a career 61% field goal kicker. He's 159 for 258. And he played with a freaking club foot. Wow. So, actually, Tom Dempsey, if you Google him, look up what his foot looked like, because he actually had a club foot. He does not have any toes on his right foot, which he kicked with, which actually made him better at kicking. In 1977, the NFL added a rule known as the Tom Dempsey Rule. And the rule is this: any shoe that is worn by a player with an artificial limb on his kicking leg must have a kicking surface that conforms to that of a normal kicking shoe.
No way.
Yes way. That's called the Tom Dempsey Rule. Informally,
they were scared of this guy.
Called the Tom Dempsey Rule. They were scared of Tom.
Wow.
They were scared of my guy Tom. They didn't let my guy Tom do his thing. He was born with an advantage.
Wow.
Truly. To most people, a club foot would be an inherent disadvantage, right? You don't get born with as much. You don't get born. What am I talking about? You're not born with as much foot as you usually are. But Tom took that and he turned it into a pretty remarkable career as a place kicker. So
good for him.
Yeah, shout out to Tom Dempsey one time. Anyway, zeros. I just have written here everyone on Miami, TBH, because they kind of got crushed. There is one guy that I want to single out. My sincerest apologies to Walt McDonald, who had a pretty lousy game. Walt McDonald's game, as far as his passing goes, he attempted one pass. That pass was returned 76 yards the other way for a touchdown. That was it. That was the only pass he threw all game. And that was also the last score in a 44-0 blowout. So Walt kind of, I mean, I don't know. Do you think that's less or more bad? It would probably be more bad if that pick six actually won the game for the Browns, and they wouldn't have won if it weren't for that. It was kind of meaningless, but that is sort of that's a sad situation. You attempt one pass, and it was regardless of the context, that's not good. So sorry to single you out, Walt. What did Walt do? He played in the AAFC for 4 seasons, and he did fine. I don't think we really need to dig into that further, but yeah, Walt didn't have a great game. He didn't rush for any yards. He didn't catch any passes. His stat line for the game is 1 pass attempt, 1 interception, returned 76 yards the other way for a touchdown. So,
and that's okay. This is a game-by-game...
Yeah, but that's not okay.
No, I mean, this isn't just... we're not saying that this guy was, the worst, right?
I mean, on September 6, 1946, he was definitely the worst.
That's what I mean. This is a game-by-game basis.
Right, okay, I see what you're saying.
So, don't take it personally,
Walt. Sincerest apologies to Walt. You were the 0. I'm sorry, Walt. Moving on.
We needed one.
Yeah, we needed one. Well, we needed one. Legends in the making. This is a segment where we're going to talk about legends in the making. The Cleveland Browns. I know. The Cleveland Browns in the 1940s had a lot of these. Just a brief overview of the list. Paul Brown, Lou fucking Groza, baby, Otto Graham, and Marion Motley are the 4 guys I kind of pulled out. All 4 of these people are NFL Hall of Famers. Actually, let me look at Marion Motley real quick. I'm 99% sure that he is, and I don't have his Wikipedia pulled up, but I'm almost positive he's in the Hall of Fame. Yes, he is. All 4 of these people are in the NFL Hall of Fame because they're 4 of the greatest people to touch a football field in their lives, TBH. And they all were involved in this game. Paul Brown coached the Browns. This was his first time coaching a professional football team. Previously, Paul coached at Massillon High School, Severn School. That was his first coaching job as a head coach. The Ohio State Buckeyes famously won a national championship with them, their first one. The Great Lakes Blue Jackets, the U.S. Navy team. And this was his first foray into professional football with the team named after him, which he didn't want, by the way, just to be fully transparent. And I'm sure if you're a Browns fan, you probably know this. The team is named after Paul Brown. Paul Brown was already a legendary coach when he came to the Cleveland Browns. He coached Ohio State to a natty. He was a legendary high school coach in Massillon. Massillon is a football-crazed high school program. If you go to their stadium, it's huge. And Massillon is not a huge town. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of out of the way. But going to their stadium, you would think that you're at a D3 or D2 college stadium because it's huge, and they have a really Paul Brown kind of got their whole legacy of being a football crazy city going at the high school level. And so the team was named after him. I don't know whose idea it was. It just says rejected calls for it to be christened the Browns in his honor. I don't know who was doing the calling, but there were calls. On the record, there were calls. Mickey McBride, the owner of the Browns, officially named it. Paul wasn't super stoked about that, but eventually he was fine, whatever. He was so embarrassed though that the team was named after him that he actually made up a story that it was actually named after Joe Louis, who was named his nickname, Joe Louis the boxer, the legendary boxer. His nickname was the Brown Bomber. And Paul Brown allegedly, he made this story up, this isn't actually true, but he said the team is named the Browns because he wanted to name the team after Joe Louis, because he was an admirer of Joe Louis, heavyweight champion. Wanted to name the team the Browns so the team would win like Joe Louis won.
It's a pretty good tail.
Yeah, so he named the team the Brown Bombers, which is shortened to the Browns. It was a tail. It was a fib. It was not true. The team is named after Paul Brown.
Just a little white lie.
Yeah, the team is named after Paul Brown. And eventually, the Browns actually officially endorsed the Joe Louis story for a while. I don't know why, but in the mid-'90s, they switched their official stance, and they were like, yeah, it was actually Paul Brown this whole time. So Paul Brown coached this game. Pretty good start to his professional coaching career. Lou Groza, baby. We talked about him. Otto Graham, kinda. We talked about him. He didn't have a great game, but he had a decent game. He did what he needed to do. He threw a touchdown. He had 2 rushes for -5 yards. Probably sacks, although they didn't track sacks yet. I don't think they started tracking.
They didn't track sacks?
They did not track sacks.
They had no sack tracker?
They did not. There were no sacks. I mean, there were sacks to track, but they did not track sack.
Oh my gosh.
Holy crap.
Well, what do you think about that?
I really wanted to keep that going.
Why not?
They just didn't.
It seems important.
I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know. I think, and this is just off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure Lawrence Taylor was the guy that first inspired sacks being tracked. Oh, excuse me. NFL tracking sacks. This is really good radio. Did the NFL tracking... When did the NFL start keeping track of sacks? AI will tell us. 1982. However, sacks were not always officially recorded or counted in the same way. Prior to 1982, some teams and media outlets did keep track of sacks. However, it was not a uniform or official statistic, and the NFL did not have a standardized definition or method for recording sacks until the 1982 season. In the early days of the NFL, I'm just literally reading this off of the Meta AI. So
thank you, Meta.
I really, this half liter of water was very worth it. Thank you, Meta. In the early days of the NFL, sacks were often referred to as tackles for loss, TFLs, or quarterback drops. That's confusing because a drop back is also... Anyway, the first recorded sack in NFL history is credited to R. Donovan, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? He sacked Y.A. Tittle, one of the coolest names for a significant football player. So 1982 is when the NFL officially started keeping track of sacks at a league-wide level. Sometimes teams would keep track of them. But in 1946, that was definitely not a thing that anybody...
So we don't know what Otto Graham was up to.
We don't know what Otto Graham was up to. We just know the final number for good old Otto was -5. And how he got 5 yards back there, who knows? But that's where he ended up. -5. So that was Otto's game. Marion Motley didn't really have a great game either, by his standards. He had one big explosive play, and that was a reception he took for 35 yards down the sideline. 5 rushes for 19 yards. That's fine, but probably give him the ball more, Paul. Paul, if I could go back in time 80 years and tell you how to coach, because I'm clearly smarter than Paul Brown.
Yeah. Totally.
Give the ball to Marion Motley. Probably a good idea. Most importantly, though, what he did on the field doesn't really matter because Marion Motley broke the color barrier in this game, along with Bill Willis. They broke the color barrier in professional football.
That's pretty awesome.
Which is, that's pretty significant. The Browns were the first professional football team to play black players, and in this game they played too. Marion Motley had one of the coldest quotes of all time about this. Here's what he said. They found out that while they were calling us N-words and alligator bait, I don't like racism. Anyway, I was running for touchdowns, and Willis was knocking the shit out of them. So they stopped calling us names and started trying to catch up with us. One of the coldest quotes of all time.
Damn.
You want to call us names? We're literally just going to be better at football than you. Damn. Fucking idiots.
No one's got time for all of this crap.
Anyway,
Let's play football. We're better than you.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I apologize in advance for when this comes out. I'm literally trying to sidestep old school 1940s racism, and I don't know if what I'm saying is good or not.
I'm gonna have a hard time in a minute here. So
okay.
There's a lot was happening at this point in time, as everyone knows.
This is literally it's like monocle handlebar mustache racism. Where I don't even know what this is. This is Ford Model T racism.
It feels like it all feels like a joke. It's like everyone's just
but it's not a joke.
Joking about it, right?
It's not a joke because like people,
serious.
Yeah, like it's very serious. But so at the same time, it's like
a dystopian future past.
Anyway, Marion Motley was a badass, and he didn't have a great game, but he did have a great game. He had one of the greatest games because this was the first game a black professional football player ever played. Him and Bill Willis. So there you go, legend in the making. He would be a legend for that regardless, but also he was pretty damn good at football and good enough to be in the Hall of Fame on his own merits as a player, regardless of the color of his skin. So that's fucking awesome. Now, some interesting connections. I brought up a guy named Lou Saban. Lou Saban played for the Browns in this game. Lou Saban was one of like the 6 players that threw a pass. He had 3 pass attempts. He completed none of them, and one of them was picked off. Not a great game for old Lou. He also had 2 rush attempts for -6 yards. Those might be sacks. I don't know if those are sacks or not. But yeah, it officially lists Lou Saban's position on Pro Football Reference as C-B. So that could be a lot of things. That could be center. That could be back. It's probably not cornerback because that would be CB with no hyphen. So, anyway, Lou Saban played in this game. He could be a distant cousin of Nick Saban, the legendary college and NFL coach of Bama, LSU, Miami Dolphins, Cleveland Browns fame, Michigan State, Toledo. I'm trying to name all the Nick Saban teams, Kent State. But nobody really seems to know for sure, which is kind of fun. Like, it wasn't really acknowledged, but it was maybe brought up by some people. Like, let me see how they okay. Here's I'm just gonna read Wikipedia real quick. Lou Saban shares his last name with another famous football coach, Nick Saban. They were called distant cousins in a 2005 article where Lou comments on the younger Saban's success. Upon the death of Lou Saban, his widow Joyce said the 2 men might have been second cousins.
They didn't know?
Might have been.
How do they not know? Do they not look into that?
I don't know, because they're both really significant figures in the history of American football.
Yeah, you could easily
Nick
find out for sure.
I think you could easily find out for sure, especially Lou Saban lived until, you can find out whether or not you're related to somebody. Maybe he knew and he just didn't care, he didn't want to be known as Nick Saban's cousin, because Lou had many accomplishments on his own merit. He had a great career as a player and as a coach. Lou as a player, if I can just check this out here. Lou as a player kicked, he place kicked, he played defense, he ran the ball in 1946, he passed the ball in 1946, he was named to the first team All AAFC in 1948 and 1949, and he had an even better career as a coach. As a player, he only played professionally for the Browns from 46 to 49. But as a coach, he coached at Case Tech, Washington, Northwestern, Western Illinois, Boston Patriots, Buffalo Bills, Maryland, Denver Broncos, Buffalo Bills again, the U, Miami, Army, UCF, high school, random semi-pro teams. He has over a 3-4 decade career as a football coach. He's in the Buffalo Bills Ring of Honor. I think they call it the Wall of Fame. Yeah, Buffalo Bills Wall of Fame. I'm not entirely sure what that means. He was the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. He had a really, really good coaching career. Something significant about Lou Saban is that he was, the second time he was named head coach of the Bills, Buffalo's coming off a 1-13 season. There was a guy on the team by the name of O.J. Simpson, who the year prior had run for 742 yards and 5 touchdowns. The next year in 72, under Lou's guidance, O.J. Simpson led the NFL in rushing yards, and Lou Saban rightly gets a lot of credit for how good of a season O.J. Simpson had that year. And nobody ever heard from O.J. again. The end. Anyway, Lou also was a student during his time for the Browns at Baldwin Wallace University in Berea, Ohio, which is cool because that's where I went to school.
Spent a lot of time there.
Yeah, spent a lot of time there. I mean, we spent a lot of time there.
Yes,
Ava and I having lunch in the cafeteria. I bet Lou had lunch in the cafeteria.
I bet he did.
I
wonder if he gave any of his lovely lady friends a homemade mix CD with a...
Well, no, because it was the 1940s and they didn't have CDs yet.
Wow, so you must be the only one.
I must be the only one who's ever made a mix CD for their significant other, yeah. That must be something that only I did. No, I feel like Lou, if Lou would have had access to the technology, I bet he probably would have.
Totally. He seemed like that kind of
Yeah, he seemed like a good guy. Associated with other good people, O.J. Simpson being one of those people. So that's Lou, and those are all the legends in the making. I'm trying to think. We have more on Lou Groza. We're going to be talking about Lou Groza a lot on this podcast, and we have more on Lou Groza for later, so I will save that for later. Now, we're going to do a little segment that we're going to call, Ava, I think you did some research on this. This is where before every episode I'm going to give Ava 2 topics to research. Ava's going to do a deep dive into whatever she can get her hands on, and she's going to talk about it. So, topic number 1, the Miami Seahawks. Ava, I think you did some research on this.
Why, yes. Yes, I did and / was supposed to. So, as I have
Correct, I asked you to.
As I have stated before, I think I took this a little in the wrong direction.
There's no wrong direction.
Well, I don't think I have anything about the Seahawks. I thought you really wanted to know about the animal Seahawks.
I did too want to know about that.
So, I have one thing here about the team.
Also, real quick, if I can cut you off, I actually also have to take a little bathroom break.
Okay. Do we have to announce that? Are we not editing this at all?
I kind of don't want to, just out of laziness, to be honest. So yeah, I think it's fine. You either fuck with the energy or you don't. If you're an hour into this, I don't think you care if I go to the bathroom and Ava vamps for 5 minutes.
I care.
You do?
I'm scared.
You can do it.
All right.
I trust you.
All right, I'll be quick. I'll get us rolling.
Yeah,
all right, guys, you're stuck with me and facts about Seahawks. So here we go. Let's see. Seahawks as a team. The Seahawks were originally going to be called the Seattle Kings. I could not tell you why. There was not a lot of information about this and why they chose the name that they chose. They ended up obviously not going with the Seattle Kings. I don't know why. But it was basically decided via entries. So the only thing that I really found to this was that the Seahawks website... Well, no, this doesn't make sense. Eli, get in here! They didn't have a website. I'm talking about the wrong team. Anyway, we don't know. We don't know why they're named Seahawks. But I have so much information about Seahawks as an animal. So, Seahawks aren't a real animal. They're not. Seahawk is a nickname, which I think is why you asked me about it.
Okay,
and
I'm
you
back.
were curious.
What did I miss?
Really nothing. I started to read from my official research here.
Yeah.
That I was trying to talk about how the Seahawks got their name.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the Seahawks, they asked for suggestions on their website, and that doesn't make sense.
Wait. What?
Yeah. I'm as I'm reading this, I'm wait a minute, what time was this? So that's not true.
Ava, no, of course not. It was 1946.
I know. So I just don't understand.
So you don't remember where you got that from?
The internet. A website.
Well, the internet's never lied to anyone before. So.
I think that it must have been talking about the other team.
Seattle.
Yes.
Okay. You know what's crazy is that also can't be true because the Seattle Seahawks were founded in
Sorry.
1977.
I'm reading my own notes wrong.
Okay.
The Seahawks official website explains how they got their name.
And by Seahawks you mean Seattle.
Yeah, so this is not even relevant.
Well, I mean it is because one of the things that I asked David to research for this episode was what a Seahawk actually is, because I don't think anybody really knows. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like projecting my lack of Seahawk knowledge onto everybody who watches football. But like I've watched football my whole life, and the Seahawks have been a team my whole life. I don't know what a Seahawk is. I don't think anybody really...
No. Well, it's confusing because there is no animal with the name Seahawk. Seahawk is like a nickname.
Okay.
You know? It would be like just saying, like, hound dog.
Right.
But, like, that's not a specific breed of dog, right?
I mean, a hound, like, yeah, it is, though.
No, it's not.
Like a bloodhound. Or a greyhound.
Well, see, there's two. There's two right there.
Right, but so it's still a specific, like, you wouldn't call, like, a Shih Tzu, like, a hound.
Correct.
So is there...
But it's the same thing, because Seahawks refer to a very particular kind of bird, but it's not every single bird.
Okay, so what kinds of birds would qualify as a Seahawk?
There are specifically two that generally people consider to be, like, Seahawks. Like, when I say Seahawk, I could either be talking about a skua, I think is how you say it, or an osprey. Okay? That's, like, the general consensus. So, like, osprey are... also known as river hawks or fish hawks, and basically these are animals that live by water. So that's really the long and short of it.
I know what an osprey is. However, what was the first kind of bird that you said? Because I have never heard of that in my life. How do you spell it?
Me neither. It's S-K-U-A.
S-K-U-A, skua.
A predatory seabird.
Oh, that's like a seagull.
Yeah, it doesn't look as intimidating as like when I picture a hawk.
I'm literally looking at a seagull right now.
It's pretty much a seagull.
Yeah.
And
okay, so they
behave pretty much like seagulls as well.
So they live by the shore and they eat people's fries.
They're known as kleptoparasite, which is an animal that steals food or other resources from another animal.
That's a really good term.
They've also been referred to as piratical birds, like these birds are pirating from other birds. They even will steal food from other birds who have like freaked out and like thrown up. They'll like eat their thrown up food. They'll like bully the food out of something that's already eaten shit and like eat it.
They'll bully other birds into throwing up and eat their vomit.
Yes.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. So they also eat...
Get it how you live. You know what I'm saying?
There's more on this because, as you know, as I have mentioned, I have a lot of information on birds. Okay, so we're just going to tell you more because I know that's why you're here. These birds will also they'll kill live penguin chicks and sick or injured adult penguins. They have no mercy. And
is that fact? Was that scientifically proven that they have no mercy?
Quote, they have no mercy, end quote.
Who did
National Geographic.
National Geographic said that? Okay, then it must be true.
So they're little shits. But then also, as soon as another aggressive bird comes around, known as a giant petrel, they're very afraid of these seabirds.
Oh, okay.
They will immediately like back off and forfeit. So they have like no spine. They're just mean.
Figuratively speaking, no spine.
Yes.
They have a spine.
Yes.
Like in their skeletal system. Yeah. They have a spine.
But when they aren't...
Important to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
But when these other birds aren't around though, they like they don't care. Okay? They will directly pilfer milk from an elephant seal's teats.
What?
That is a direct quote from Wikipedia.
Pilfer.
Yes.
You're saying so many great words right now. Pilfer, piratical, parasitical, I think is a word that exited your mouth hole.
Yeah, they're pretty crazy.
So let me get this straight, Ava. I feel like Steve Harvey right now, where I ask all these clarifying questions that are really obvious. I briefly considered doing a Steve Harvey impression, but I thought better of it. They will latch on to an elephant seal's teats.
Tatas.
They're BBs. And they will breastfeed.
Yes.
They will feed on milk intended for the elephant seal's young.
Yes.
That's hard.
And I guess the seal just lets it happen?
No. Why? They don't try to stop it?
No, I don't.
Do they care?
You would think if they tried to do it, as soon as they latch on, that they'd get swatted away. But no, if they can feed, feeding is an act of you're doing it. It's happening. Consensual. Well, implied. No, maybe not. But maybe they just.
Dr. Ava, zoologist Ava.
Right.
In your professional opinion, does the seal care?
I feel like if I say something right now, it defines me as a person.
Okay, I won't put you in that position.
I don't know what the seal feels.
That's either way. That is crazy. That is actually insane. Okay. Anything else about Seahawks / shorebirds / ospreys, skuas, whatever?
I wanted to ask you. So we've got the skua, which is this, shit-eating seagull bird.
Literally shit-eating or figuratively? Do they also eat feces? Or?
Yeah, I think they will.
Oh my god.
So we have that. And then we have a true, osprey, which an osprey gets the nickname riverhawk and fishhawk exclusively. Okay. That is reserved for an osprey.
Okay, so a riverhawk is an osprey.
Yes.
However, an osprey can also, just for everybody playing along at home, a riverhawk is an osprey.
Yeah.
A shorehawk is an osprey.
Fishhawk,
excuse me. Uh-huh. A seahawk can be an osprey.
Yes.
But it can also be several other birds.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure I'm getting all that straight. Okay.
And so continue. An osprey it's a more sophisticated kind of a seabird.
Okay.
A seahawk.
The thinking person's seahawk.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So they eat almost entirely fish.
Okay.
So they're pretty chill.
Nice.
They're not trying to stir the pot.
Fish are good.
Sometimes they will eat small mammals, birds, reptiles when fish are scarce, but
sure.
They're not trying to pilfer or pirate.
They're not
or
piratical.
Klepto anything.
No klepto.
What I did want to ask is if we're talking about this team being representative of Seahawks or vice versa, this is their mascot.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like as a team they more so fall into the Seahawk category of osprey or shit-eating skua?
I feel like this is kind of a loaded question because you're gonna make me call all this team of mostly deceased men who could all beat the ever-living shit out of me in their physical prime, shit-eating skuas.
Well, I guess, okay, let's put it this
way. They got beaten 44-0 in this game, so I feel like I have no choice but to call them that.
I mean, yeah, basically, are they scrappy, or do they have their shit so tight together and they're just, poised?
I think that this is actually a perfect segue into what we were going to do next, which was watch footage of this game, and then we'll make a determination.
Oh, really?
What do you
footage?
think? We have footage.
Oh my gosh.
We have footage.
Let's go.
So check this out. So I have this YouTube link brought up. I have footage. I have about a minute. So this video is a minute 18, and everybody, this is really easy to find if you just search Cleveland Browns Miami Seahawks on YouTube. It's the first result. Credit to the Big Fish Network on YouTube, TBFN, for posting this. And I think that this is the wrong game.
We are off to a fantastic start.
I don't know if this is the right game, actually. No. And here's why. Because as I mentioned earlier, the Seahawks and Browns actually played each other twice this season. So we're going to watch this regardless because I don't really feel like doing on-the-fly research to bring up the real game. But
this will help us answer the question.
Yeah, because, it's the same team.
Let's just see how they play.
It's the same team. So sure. This could either be from the September 9th matchup between the Seahawks and Browns or September 6th matchup between the Seahawks and Browns or the Pro Football Reference, please load. Whatever. December something. This is either September or December. This is one of their matchups in 1946. I don't know. And you know what? Okay, this has got to be September because right here, if you can see this, Ava, it says something Land Stadium, which I think probably says Cleveland Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah. So the matchup that took place at Cleveland Stadium was the September game.
Word.
So, okay, this is probably the right game.
Sweet.
That was all. Just pretend the last 2 minutes didn't happen. So we're going to click play on this. If you want, pause the episode right now. Go to YouTube. Find this video. Click play on it. We're going to do live. We're going to do a live react to this alongside each other. So it's the one uploaded by the Big Fish Network, 1946, 3-11 Miami Seahawks highlights versus Cleveland Browns with 3 exclamation points in parentheses full color hyphen before the Dolphins. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Man, and this man is neon green right here.
Yeah, I wonder if this color was added after the fact. That is an interesting looking TV camera that he's operating.
Crank, crank.
Crank, crank. Now we're looking at like boardroom footage. I don't know. So we're not listening to the audio because we have a very like DIY audio setup for this podcast. So I don't want to play any audio out loud on my shitty computer speakers because it's not going to... Okay.
Ooh, there we go.
So if there's like narration or anything. So yeah, we're into the game. I don't know which team is which. Somebody's running with the ball. He's wearing what appears to be a black or brown shirt, so maybe that's the Browns. I genuinely don't know.
Is this what it used to look like?
And he scored, so he has to be playing for the Browns because the Seahawks didn't score and the Browns did. So I think the team in brown is the Browns. The team in white is the Seahawks.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there we go. That's another touchdown.
Is that the field goal?
Yeah, that's the goalpost.
The goalpost? That is so small.
Yeah, they're small, and they were also, if you notice,
So
they're at the front of the end zone too, which they used to be at the front of the end
That
zone,
sounds
not the back.
dangerous.
It was.
That should
Yeah,
be
you're
another
absolutely
segment.
right.
That sounds dangerous.
That sounds dangerous.
It
was. Yeah, so this is, I mean, okay, so now it's over. It just ended. That was a minute 18 of the game. So that was definitely some football being played. I couldn't really tell what was going on. There were definitely some touchdowns scored. I think we saw a Lou Groza field goal or extra point. It looked pretty close to the goalpost, so I think it was probably an extra point. Not totally sure. But yeah, that was the footage. Hope everybody enjoyed the footage. What did you think of the footage? Comment below what you thought of the footage, because those were our thoughts. To go back to our earlier question, are the Seahawks shit eaters or are they chill Ospreys? I think they're chill Ospreys.
Yeah,
to be honest, because it kind of felt like they just weren't on the same level. But maybe that was okay with that. I mean, probably not. But it didn't feel like they were. I didn't get a scrappy vibe. From them.
Definitely not.
You agree?
It didn't. No, hit me that they were not a force to be reckoned with. That's not what because that's not the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's not true.
Yeah, trying really hard, and they were just playing ball.
They were just playing ball. I think that's what it comes down to. Though there were 2 teams on the field that day, they were playing against each other, and one of them won by a lot. So there you have it. So that's the first portion of the segment that we're going to call In the News.
I hope that was fun. Bird talk.
Yeah, so Ava, do you have, before we continue with our In the News segment, Ava, do you have any other research you want to share?
Yeah, well, I thought it was interesting that they ended up going with the name Seahawks because I did some extensive research as to the availability of that bird, okay?
The availability?
Yes.
Expand on that.
In Miami, Florida, like, osprey was so low on the list of common Florida birds. It was insane. So they should have been named the mockingbirds. But they weren't.
Miami Mockingbirds?
They just didn't.
I don't think a mockingbird is like a tough enough bird to name a football team after, to be honest.
I think that's why people use Seahawk, because it's like this elusive, vague kind of name. Everyone can have their own image of it in their head.
Yeah, it doesn't refer to a specific kind of bird. It's more of like it's more of a bird category.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm thinking about other bird teams. Like in all professional sports, not just in football. You have teams like the Cardinals in multiple sports. You have the Orioles of Baltimore. An Oriole really isn't a very tough bird, but I think it's okay to name a baseball team after something that's not all that tough. Like you have a team in MLB literally named after like a friar, like a monk. Like that's actually kind of cool. Anyway,
really?
Different type. Yeah, the Padres.
That's interesting.
Yeah, their logo is like a little like monk guy with like a... Here, let me look it up. Padres monk logo. He's like swinging a baseball bat. Yeah.
Whoa.
Padres.
No way.
Yeah, he's got like a little friar haircut and everything.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, so I think like a baseball team, it like makes more sense for it to be kind of like a wimpy logo because it's more like tongue in cheek. You know, we have like multiple baseball teams named after socks. A football team is supposed to be like scare you.
Yeah.
You
so
know?
they went with Seahawks, and I get it.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. The shit eaters.
Beautiful.
The Miami shit eaters. All right, moving on. In the news, the news article that stuck out to me the most from the Plain Dealer archive, which we're going to be pulling a lot from to do this show, because the Plain Dealer has a really, while kind of pricey, very easy to use and very extensive online archive of their publications. So shout out to the Plain Dealer at one time. They rock. The Plain Dealer published an article the day after the game. Well, they published a recap of the game. Groza sets pace with 14 points. Lou fucking Groza, baby. Browns show record 60,135. Versatile attack. Crush Miami 44-0. So, I mean, I think the Plain Dealer, who was at the game, which we weren't, kind of echoed our sentiment. Lou Groza boots 3 field goals. Colello races 50 yards for touchdown. Terrell sprints 76. I think some of the footage we watched was maybe of the Coella and the Terrell touchdowns. Maybe. It's actually really hard to tell. Anyway, the article that I want to talk about, though, is this article about Lou Groza. The headline is, Groza uses rifle technique to aim. And they're talking about his place kicking, and they're talking about specifically how he kicked in the technique that he used. It's really fascinating, and in the 2025 NFL, definitely wouldn't be allowed. And here's why. Let me just read the article to you real quick. Golden-toed kicker sights along length of adhesive tape placed on ground. That's the subhead. Let me read that again. Sights along length of adhesive tape placed on ground. I'm just going to let that sit in the air for a little bit. This was legendary Hall of Fame kicker Lou Groza, league MVP, aimed with tape. He taped the ground to aim. Let me give you some more details from this article. Lou Groza, they call Lou Groza a large young man. Which, having seen pictures of Lou Groza, I have no choice but to agree with that statement. Yeah. A large young man from Martins Ferry, Ohio, kicked 3 field goals and 5 points after touchdowns. That's funny. As the Cleveland Browns swamped the Miami Seahawks at the stadium last night. Lou Groza, he has the golden toe. Groza's technique is all his own. It says it puzzled most of the spectators because he carries a length of 1.25 inch adhesive tape, about 4 feet long. So, okay, I actually didn't see this when I was reading the article earlier. The length of tape is 4 feet long. So, like, I'm stretching my hands right now to about 4 feet. This is how long the length of tape is. Where did he keep this?
He just has it on him at all times.
Like on his person. But, like, how do you keep a length of tape that big, like, without, like, crumpling it up and, like, getting
rolled?
Maybe,
you know, was it like a measured piece of string or tape?
No, it's tape. So, like, how do you keep a length of tape that big from getting stuck to itself?
Eli, you know, like when you go to get alterations done on clothes,
no,
and they like zoop, they pull out the thing and they measure from here to here.
That's a tape measure. That's not adhesive tape.
Oh, it's adhesive.
It's adhesive tape. It's adhesive tape. It's sticky.
Lou, what are you doing?
Lou, how did you do that? And
also, why?
If somebody knows how Lou kept his 4 foot long length of tape on the field, on him, or if he had multiple, if he cut a new 4 foot long piece of tape every time, please let us know. That's crazy. Also want to know, this is a little off topic, but Lou actually was a sophomore at Ohio State at the time when he was playing for the Browns. This is obviously not allowed in today's NFL. You can't be in college and in playing professionally at the same time before you finished your college eligibility. But at the time, there were no rules. So Lou decided to put his studies at Ohio State on hold in order to play professional football. And the Plain Dealer was obviously aware of this, so they call him the Big Ohio State Sophomore, which is really funny because he's playing for the Browns and attending Ohio State at the same time. He's probably one of the only people to ever do that.
He was probably the coolest kid in class.
He probably was. He actually, Lou Groza's life is interesting because he had his college career cut short by World War II, as a lot of these guys did. He went to college in 1942, I believe, got shipped over somewhere. I don't know. He went into the Navy. Let me actually make sure that I'm getting this right. Yeah, he enrolled at Ohio State. He played as a tackle and a place kicker, which is crazy. He played as a tackle on the offensive line and as a place kicker. How big was this boy? Very big. He played in 3 games and kicked 5 field goals for the freshman team, including a 45-yarder. In the early 40s, a 45-yarder is not bad. In 1943, he enlisted in the U.S. Army. He went to basic in Texas, and then went to Brooke Army Medical Center at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. And then he served in Okinawa as a surgical technician and other places in the Pacific Theater in 1945. The day he landed in the Philippines, we're getting way off topic now, but I think this is really interesting. Groza saw a soldier shot in the face.
Oh, shit.
He was stationed at a bank of tents about 5 miles from the front lines, helped doctors tend to the wounded. I saw a lot of men wounded with severe injuries, he later said. Loose legs, guts hanging out. Stuff like that.
Wow.
It's just funny he follows that up with stuff like that. It's a tough thing, but you get hardened to it and you accept it as part of your being there. Crazy, like insane shit that Lou Groza saw. And then he came back home, went back to Ohio State, started place kicking for the Browns like none of that shit ever happened.
That is absolutely bonkers that people had to do
absolutely
that all
bonkers
the
that
time.
people had to do that. Yeah.
And can you imagine, I mean, having an outlet like playing something so intense as football, you know, your adrenaline's going, that helps you like move emotions through you, you know? But
sure.
Coming home and not having that, like, I mean, I don't know how well
he went
fared.
right back to football.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
If you came home from war, you know, and seeing all of that. Why are you laughing at me?
No, I'm not. I'm just like...
Eli's a big tough guy. Eli thinks that he could do it.
No.
He could go to work.
No.
Go to his office job.
No.
All right.
I don't. I am not. I don't. I am not. I am not that guy. Seriously. If I saw somebody get shot in the face, I would have a mental breakdown, regardless of, you know, anything else that happened to him. And I think...
Yes, they just were built differently back then.
I mean, literally,
I'm kidding.
The things that Lou Groza...
That's crazy that he was able to...
In his life.
Bounce back. Anyway.
Yeah, we're good at talking about heavy topics, I think. Anyway, I also want to acknowledge that I am, like, reading this directly off of Wikipedia. I know people make fun of podcasters who read Wikipedia. I'm unapologetically one of those people. I don't put work into this. So yeah, that was Lou Groza's life. So he was enrolled at Ohio State, playing for the Browns as an Army veteran, and he used tape to place kick. He used a 4-foot-long length of tape to place kick. Here's how he did it. Don Greenwood, the holder, places the ball at the end of the tape. Okay, and so Lou stands 4 feet away from Don. The tape is 4 feet long, obviously. Don places the ball at the other end of the tape. When he goes to kick, he lays it on the ground. He aims the tape carefully at the center of the crossbar. So he uses the tape essentially as like a guide or like an assist to aim the ball, which you definitely can't do now. So, I don't know. This is actually kind of a hot take. Did Lou Groza like cheese his way into becoming one of the greatest place kickers of all time by essentially cheating with the tape? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. Did other people do this? Did anyone have anything to say about this?
I'm going to venture to say no. Okay, shout out also to Gordon Cobbledick, who wrote this article, the Plain Dealer sports editor at the time. Gordon Cobbledick called this technique all his own. So I'm assuming that means Lou Groza invented this, and he was the only one who did this. Now, whether or not other people copied him, we can't know for sure with what we know right now. But he definitely probably maybe invented it. So he kind of, yeah, so it says that is the gun barrel. Cobbledick said that is the gun barrel, and the ball is the bullet. Groza sights the barrel and pays no more attention to the bullet than a rifleman does when he draws a bead on the target. Wow. So that's how Lou Groza place kicked. Groza also keeps his head down while he kicks. Mm-hmm. So if you can look up...
In all those photos, you can see that too.
Yeah, like just going back to the photos of Lou Groza kicking, you can see his head, he's not looking at where the ball is.
No, because he's looking at the tape on the ground.
Head down. Actually, I want to see if there's a photo. Okay, so no tape in this photo. No tape in this photo. No tape in this photo. Maybe he stopped using the tape at some point.
Would we be able to see it, though?
Maybe not. Okay, I mean, this is a pretty clear view of... Wait, is that tape?
No way.
Enhance.
No.
That actually might be tape right there.
You think?
Maybe. I don't know.
Why did he need...
Guys, if anybody ever listens to this, please weigh in on whether or not you see tape in any photos of Lou Groza kicking, because necessary. We can't really see it. So the way that Gordon Cobbledick describes it, writing for the Plain Dealer, he kind of lines up the tape between himself and the holder and the ball, and then kind of runs along the ground looking at the tape, and then with his head down just kicks the ball in the direction of the tape. And I guess this made it easier for him somehow.
That sounds so elaborate.
It does sound very elaborate, but obviously he was pretty good at it because he put up 14 in this game, so he did all right. So I just thought that was interesting. Lou Groza's tape technique. Again, unclear whether he continued to do this. However, this article by Mr. Cobbledick for the Plain Dealer alleges that not only did he invent it, it was very effective. And he used it, at least in this game. We'll see in the future if the tape technique bears out as something that Lou does regularly or uses throughout his career. Maybe he abandons it at some point. We didn't see any photographic evidence of any tape in any of the photos that you can easily find on the internet. But I don't know. If you've heard of that, or if you have any pictures of the tape, let us know, because I'm kind of fascinated by the tape. Ava, are you fascinated by the tape?
I am just staring with rapt attention.
Enthralled.
At this, yes.
Is a good word. Enthralled by the tape. Okay, so we have officially talked this game to death, and I think it's time to look ahead. Ava, do you have anything else before we look ahead to game number 2 of 46?
I didn't even talk about Harvey, dude.
Oh my God, you got to talk about Harvey, dude.
Literally the information that was good Ava. That I had, we didn't talk about. You didn't ask me about him.
Ava.
Yeah.
How did you let me move on from your segment without talking about Harvey, dude?
I thought that you were just gonna, segue us into Harvey, and we were still in my segment. I didn't realize we were not in my segment anymore.
No, I'm so sorry. Okay, yes. Ava, the floor is yours to talk about Harvey. What's his last name?
Harvey Hester.
Harvey Hester, yeah. Owner of the Miami Seahawks.
Yeah.
Take it away.
All right, cool. So this guy was interesting, and this is something that we were talking about. He was the only AAFC franchise owner that was not a millionaire, which I found really interesting because in my research, he sounded like a really well-off guy. He sounded like he had a ton of money. A lot of the information that I found about him that was really interesting was from this...
that was my chair making that noise, by the way. That wasn't like a massive ripping fart.
I'm sure everyone was really worried.
I just want to clarify... Go on, please. Sorry.
So this article, or this online blog, perhaps, called Restauranting Through History by Jan Whitaker. Shout out to Jan Whitaker. She wrote this in 2016, or he wrote this in 2016. I'm actually not sure if it was a man or a woman or other who wrote this, but, this article is really interesting. So, apparently...
Jan, send us your pronouns.
Yes.
We want to know.
Jan... Your parents knew this man, Harvey Hester. So Jan goes on to say...
I'm sure Jan knows that.
Yeah.
It sounded like you were telling Jan,
I'm just fascinated. I'm like, because I was reading the article, I'm like, oh, you have like a personal connection to this man. So Anyway, it sounded like he had a lot of money. Chance said, Mom and Dad went to the Kentucky Derby with Harvey one year in the early 60s. Like, they were friends with this guy.
Oh, wow.
And apparently he had this, like, luxury railroad car. He had an air-conditioned, which, of course, at the time, like, that was, like, you had to have money for that. He had an air-conditioned luxury suite on the upper level of this place, Churchill Downs, which was on Millionaire's Row. So,
wait, hang on. Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
Do you know... So Churchill Downs is, like, a famous place.
No, I don't even know what that is.
You don't know what Churchill Downs is?
Well, no, I read Millionaire's Row, and I was like, oh, that must have just been, like, the name of someone's fancy estate.
Churchill Downs is the racetrack where they hold the Kentucky Derby.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So he had an air-conditioned suite at Churchill Downs?
Yes.
Dude.
But allegedly he wasn't a millionaire. Like, how?
I mean, I guess you could have... So, 1946 dollars... I was just reading Paul Brown's Wikipedia and, like, Lou Groza's Wikipedia, like, reading their salaries. It's like a 1 to 100 like ratio in terms of how the US dollar has risen in value since the 40s. Actually, if I can like do like an inflation calculator real quick. So like $1,000, if this loads, $1,000 in 1946. How much do you think that's worth in 2024 dollars?
$1,000 in 1946?
Yeah.
I don't know, like $400.
Okay, well, it's going to be higher because...
Oh, I was thinking about it backwards.
Oh, yeah, no. So, like, if in 1946 I have $1,000...
More.
How much would that be equivalent to in 2024?
Tell us, Eli. Tell us.
It is $16,086. So, by a figure of 16, your money go up. Get your money up.
Money go up.
Money go up. Number get big. So even though he wasn't a millionaire, like let's say he had a fortune of like I don't know, like $800,000. Is that the right? Yeah, $800,000. In 2024, he would have about like 12 million, 12.8 million.
Wow.
So I mean, he would be a millionaire by our standards today, but he wasn't a millionaire back then. But being a millionaire, that was a lot harder to do. Not that it's not hard to do now, but you know, it was harder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe maybe it wasn't.
Guy was loaded, regardless.
He still had a lot of money. Yeah.
He had
a lot of money, enough money to have a football team.
Right.
Even if it was only for a little bit.
They weren't just letting anybody do that.
But so the thing that was really successful was this restaurant that he had.
Okay.
So you knew that he was a restaurateur.
Yes.
Harvey Hester.
I did know this.
I was shocked by this man's restaurant.
Okay.
So
tell us about it.
Let me tell you about this. So Harvey Hester, he was this restaurateur in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
And you know, he had modest wealth. He wasn't a millionaire, but he had enough money to have this place, and it wasn't originally his.
Okay.
I think that he bought it from someone.
Sure.
So it was called Aunt Fanny's Cabin.
Okay.
And apparently it is like well-known, famous spot, and it has like some lore, some history, but it's a little hazy because no one is like totally certain. So apparently the alleged story about this restaurant was that there is a woman who went by the name of Aunt Fanny, and she was a slave who lived in this cabin, like the cabin that the restaurant was built into, on this old southern plantation in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
And then the story goes she stayed there. She started a restaurant in the cabin in the early 40s. That was when Harvey Hester bought it. So she had it for a while.
So he purchased it from Fanny.
And then he bought it from Fanny to turn it into a big thing.
Do you know how much he paid Fanny for the restaurant?
No. Well, see, that's the thing, is that there's no real evidence as to whether or not this woman was even real. There's some arguments to be said that the Aunt Fanny story was made up. There was a woman, though, who fits the bill of like who this was. She was kind of like, you know, there are pictures of her, and like it was Aunt Fanny, you know?
Okay.
But there were also stories and articles that I read that said, you know, she kind of made her own backstory up. And I don't know. I don't know enough about this woman. There was not a lot about this woman.
You couldn't find out. There's There's not a whole lot out there on Aunt Fanny.
No.
Okay.
So, it seems to me that she was a real woman, but the origins of the restaurant are a little hazy. Huh. That's pretty much what we got. But all right. But as a restaurant, it was really successful. Actually, a lot of famous people went there. I think some presidents went there, and I don't think I have like a list of people, because honestly, if I'm being real, a lot of these people I didn't know, but apparently it was like bumping with all of these famous people of the day. Okay,
sure.
Like actresses and. Do
you have any names to name, or just in general, famous people went there?
Well, you can tell me if you know who Clark Gable and Susan Hayward were.
Of course I know Clark Gable. Clark Gable's mega famous.
Are you?
No, like seriously, he was like one of the most famous movie stars of that time period.
Okay, I didn't think that.
Yeah. No. Clark Gable was a big deal.
Okay, well, they went.
Damn. All right.
And they really liked it, apparently. But this restaurant, you guys, I felt icky just reading about this restaurant. But again, it kind of speaks to the times and the things that people didn't really think about. So,
oh boy, okay.
The long and short of it is that this restaurant really capitalized on the fact that it was allegedly an old slave cabin.
Okay.
So they really.
I don't like where this is going.
They really played up like the whole like I don't even know. Let me see if I can read you some of this stuff, because it was actually insane. One of the things that Jan said was, appropriate or not, it was a very popular place. And from what I read, there were people that were a little uncomfortable with it, but they also pushed that even the black workers that were there, you know, whether or not they actually meant it, they all said, "Oh, we love working here," you know, and who knows what they actually thought. But this place was like they were the quote-unquote old South. Like, they had the fried chicken and the steaks and, I don't know, like biscuits and
just southern
food,
cooking.
You know?
Yeah, right. I think I can all envision what that entails.
Yeah. They had I think they had like it wasn't like a mariachi band, but he had like
mariachi band.
It wasn't a mariachi band. I don't know what you would call it. Like
he had a house band.
He had a bunch of young boys.
He had a bunch
playing
of boys.
Instruments. Yes, and this is like another layer to it, because these were kids. These were kids who were dressed up in like period clothing.
Oh no.
Who were either playing instruments or they describe it. It's specifically they would poke their head through a hole in the wall, and they would like yell like "order up" or "what's your order," and then they would like walk around and like take people's orders like at the table. There's photos of this, guys. There are photos of this. If you can find this article,
well, I need to see these photos now.
There are a lot of really intriguing photos about this.
Okay, so what's this place is called? Aunt Fanny's Kitchen.
Aunt Fanny's
Cabin.
So the story, allegedly, Fannie Williams was a servant to a wealthy Atlanta family who went by the name of Campbell, last name Campbell.
Okay, this is just really... The fact that this was like... Are you sure?
Well, I don't know.
Did you...
Maybe it is. That doesn't look like... It's not around anymore.
Yeah.
And that looks like a recent photo.
Okay. Maybe this was different then. Maybe they built this as like a replica or something.
Maybe they did.
I'm just trying to look at... Oh, maybe this was it. Aunt Fanny's Cabin Restaurant in Atlanta. This looks like a bit fancier, but it's definitely a house. Mm-hmm. Or like a private residence of some sort that they turned into a restaurant. Yeah, there are a lot of articles about like, you know, the controversy of Aunt Fanny's... Sorry, this is really funny.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, it's
I don't
not
know.
Good.
So this is an important inflection point in the podcast. How deep do we want to get into problematic race relations?
I don't know if I'm qualified to dive deep into that.
Me neither.
But I'm just saying, like this is kind of, you know, this was happening.
This was definitely happening.
And people didn't really think twice about it, you know?
Yeah.
Again, there were, it was noted that there were some people who felt uncomfortable, but on the whole, the public received this pretty well, you know? You would go in there and there would be, like, it was, the house was...
The Caucasian public.
Well, they actually said that there were a lot of black customers as well, like frequent, like regulars.
Okay, because from what I'm reading...
Which is really interesting as well.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
But, no, it was like, it was very, yeah, they decorated the place like it was... Like you were there, which was so crazy. So from what I'm reading here, this is an article from the Washington Post,
by Art Harris, detailing like what it was like to eat at Aunt Fanny's. And I'm just going to read an excerpt from this article here. Black waitresses in slave-style calico dresses and bandanas bustle about with platters of chicken, spicy squash souffle, piping hot cornbread, and deep dish apple cobbler. Belting out black spirituals, even joining good old boys in hearty renditions of Dixie, and chiding tourists to eat your turnip greens. I think you can kind of tell, discerning listeners will be able to tell from those details what the general vibe of Aunt Fanny's cabin was. And I think, needless to say, it's problematic in several different ways. However, you know, everybody has their own opinion of what that was. I'm like, really, there's a lot to unpack here. I'm like really trying to be careful discussing Aunt Fanny's.
But we can, so that's Aunt Fanny's. Find more on the internet and, you know, and have fun with that. But the restaurant kind of moved hands a lot. It doesn't exist anymore because people realized that it shouldn't. So the restaurant's third owner, whose name is hilarious, George Poole, who goes by Pongo, so Mr. Pongo Poole, he bought this place, I think somewhere in like the 70s, the late 70s.
Okay.
It wasn't specified, but he continued the song and dance tradition of the young men who worked here, and that was well into the 80s. And then
oh my god, the 80s.
And then they demanded a cabaret tax, so they stopped doing that. And they didn't have any more dancing and singing. However, they continued the yoke style wooden menu, and then it just kind of fell apart. I think the public realized that they didn't feel good doing that.
Yeah,
being there. And,
no, I can't imagine.
I think they used it for a while as like a welcome center in the town. So maybe that's what you're seeing. Maybe that picture that you pulled up that looks like it was taken in like 2010.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's probably what that's from. But yeah, no more is Aunt Fanny's Cabin, the restaurant. And thank goodness. And thanks, Harvey, for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't want to do, and I think you're aware of this as well. Like, I don't want to do the white liberal pearl clutching of like, oh, the South, oh, it was so horrible. Because like, just reading this Washington Post article, it seems that a bunch of people of color at the time, not only did they enjoy working there, but they actually quote a local NAACP president who says, you know, this might be good as like a historical time capsule, like for people to learn about how things were.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. I mean, the truth is somewhere in the middle. Right?
I think so, because, you could take it both ways. Like, there were people that were going who maybe didn't think about it at all, and they just were having a good time and not thinking too deeply about it. But, yeah, maybe the other population of people who were coming, maybe it did feel like a nice, just, you know, like, we don't want to sweep anything under the rug.
Right.
We don't want to forget about it.
No. Yeah, I think we can leave it there. I don't think we really need to like make a judgment call on this because I don't think we're the right people to do that. But I think we can leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the information.
Anything else about Harvey?
No, that's
it. You just got deep into Aunt Fanny's and you're like, that's.
There wasn't really a lot about him.
Yeah.
Other than him being in charge of the footballs and the restaurant, and that was all I got.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's the end of Ava. I think you did some research on this. Ava, is there anything you want to add before we honestly wrap up here? Because I think we pretty well covered everything that we needed to.
No, I've got nothing else.
Okay, well, fantastic.
We just went on a journey.
We sure did. Wow, what a fitting end to this episode, I guess. Anyway, back to the football. The next game, next episode is going to be about Browns at Rockets. Not the Houston Rockets, the Chicago Rockets, which were another team in the AAFC. I'm sure we'll learn more about what the Chicago Rockets are all about. I've never heard of them before. Ava, I doubt you've heard of them before.
I've heard of them before.
Really?
No.
All right, well, we're going to learn all about them. The next game, another Friday nighter, Friday, September 13th, 1946, Browns at Rockets.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Ooh. Oh my God, I didn't realize that. Ooh. Ooh. All right, well, come back next time for episode 2. I hope you enjoyed the first. I mean, if anybody's listening to this at this point, we're nearly at the 2-hour mark. Oh, dear God. I kind of knew it would be this long, but I was also sort of like, I really hope that, I enjoy like a challenging podcast experience.
Of course.
As
you would.
I enjoy podcasts that really test your patience.
Wow.
So I guess I've sort of made this into a podcast that I would enjoy. And if there's anybody out there that enjoys this type of podcast, I hope that there are people out there still listening that enjoy this, wavering, meandering discussion of all things Browns Seahawks. Come back next time. Yeah. We'd love to have you. Episode 2 coming soon. Browns at Rockets.
Can't wait.
Let's go.